Did you know that Paris Hilton is a pig farmer? That's right, Paris Hilton is a pig farmer. Back in 2009, Paris Hilton bought herself a teacup pig. Now, teacup pigs have been around a long time, and there's a lot of controversy around the teacup pig. You see, they're kind of some people claim a scam. Someone sells you this specialized pig that's been specially bred to fit inside a little teacup. And someone goes and says, "Oh man, look at that little cute pig. How big does it get?" The person says, "Oh, it doesn't get very big. It's a teacup pig. Go ahead, you can buy it. You can keep it inside your house." And that's what Paris Hilton did. She bought herself a little teacup pig, and she was told that it wouldn't get very big and it would be able to live inside her house. Turns out, like most pigs, the pig got larger than a teacup. Here's a picture of Paris Hilton's pig when she first got it. It was definitely a smaller pig. Looking at a more recent picture of Paris Hilton's pig, she should be proud. Most pig farmers would be happy to have a pig that grew a lot larger than they expected. Let's just say she got a little bit more than what she paid for if she was hoping to have purchased a teacup pig. Sometimes with livestock, there are fads, and there are things that come and go, and people will claim, having gone through these, seen these, witnessed these, that all things contrary to what they believe or what they've seen in the past are fads. I've noticed this trend when it came to pastured pigs. When I first started hearing about pastured pigs, I of course heard it through the slow food movement. Different farmers talking about pastured pigs, grazing pigs, and I was very interested because I was already pasturing poultry, putting Cornish crosses out on grass and watching them gobble up bugs and enjoy life doing that. And so I started looking into pastured pigs. And having the show, we started talking about it here on Homesteady. And kind of like teacup pigs, I learned there is a lot of controversy around pastured pigs and grazing pigs. There are people who believe it's a complete lie and there's no such thing and you can never have a pig that goes out on grass. And then there are people who will tell you that there's pigs that can eat only grass and they will get huge and they will get fat and they will do everything they need to do. Well, as usual with Homesteady, we find that, the reality is somewhere in the middle. And as I did more research, I learned more about these grazing pigs and pastured pigs. I decided after years and years of raising Yorkshire landrace commercial pink cross pigs, I wanted to try getting into pastured and grazing pigs. Not because I believed I could grow them for free in my backyard just off of sunshine and grass blades. And also not because I wanted to prove this was a myth and a lie out there and there's no such thing. But because they have some things that are different about them than what I was used to. Some pros that maybe the commercial style pigs don't have. And I wanted to give it a shot for myself. So we did a little bit of research and we wound up deciding to get some coonies. And later on we wound up deciding to get some IPPs, Idaho Pastured Pigs. Knowing very little about these pigs, we did further research to find someone who knew more about them and who could answer some of our questions and help us kind of navigate through what information's on the internet, what information people are talking about, the people who say it's all lies, the people say it's all true. Someone who actually has some experience who can share with us and answer our questions. And that's why we have Kirsten with us tonight.
My grandfather and my grandmother and my uncles, so they own the family homestead. I mean, my grandparents are gone. That's been in our family for over 200 years. So every vacation, summer, I would beg, borrow, or steal a ride to the farm.
This is Kirsten Wardner from Mouse Creek Farms. She's the turkey grow-out manager for Empire Kosher Poultry She's worked in turkey and broiler production since 1996. But the truth is, she's not here to talk about turkeys or chickens. She's here to talk about her true passion, which is pigs. And that started all the way back on her grandparents' farm.
When I was a little kid, my grandfather had a boar and 2 sows, and they would have cute little piglets. And all of a sudden, the sows disappeared and the boar disappeared. And I really think it was because they found Kirsten climbing over the fence to get in with the pigs.
Oh, no. Yeah, that would do it.
Or what? I can't prove it. Nobody ever said it. But if they couldn't find me, they could find me in the barn.
What is the deal with the Idaho pastured pig? What's going on with this pig that makes it so special?
They're kind of addicting. It is like the crack cocaine of the pig world. They have a great personality, and I don't have a lot of experience with heritage breeds, or even with a lot of even modern pig breeds, because obviously when I left the farm and the feeder pigs, I went into poultry. So, I've been out of the pig world for a long time, but, they're not huge. The commercial industry had gone to the bigger boars, the bigger sows, more piglets per sow. And some of those boars can get quite sizable. And this is I would consider a medium-sized pig. So it's not quite as intimidating. I mean, they're still livestock, but it's not quite as intimidating. They are a nice size. They have great personalities, and they taste good. My understanding is they were developed by a couple who wanted a homesteading pig, specifically for small farms, small acres, easy to take care of, but had a good growth rate. So they, I guess, did a lot of research. They picked the old Berkshire for the meat quality, they picked the Duroc for the mothering ability, and they picked the Cooney for the grazing ability, and they just kept breeding them together till they got what they wanted, and the Idaho pasture pig was created. Once they created that, then it was 12 years of breeding, is my understanding, till they could be considered an actual breed. They seem to do well on pasture. They still need grain. They're an omnivore. But they love being on pasture. So it's kind of a nice animal to be around, to work around. They're just kind of addicting. The piglets are cuter. I started with 1 and had 4 in a month.
What do you prefer to refer to these pigs? Do you call them pasture pigs, grazing pigs? What's the right term in your opinion, Kirsten? And what does that mean as far as what you should expect from these sort of pigs? We also have Coonies, which, when I was looking into Coonies, was a lot of the same description in the Cooney, description. What is a pastured pig? What does that tell the person who's buying it?
Well, it's my understanding that the only true grazing pig is the Cooney, which is why the Cooney was used in the development of the Idaho pasture pig. I just call them pasture pigs. I don't know that there is a correct terminology, and someone that's maybe more into pasturing pigs a lot longer than I have been, maybe there's some correct terminology. They're Idaho pasture pigs, IPPs. So I just call them pasture pigs. But pigs are omnivores, so they do still require some kind of a grain, a balanced diet. If a pig's not getting a balanced diet, it's going to try to find it. So that's when I think a lot of your damage to your pastures come, is when they're missing something. So I just call them pasture pigs or bacon.
I like that too. When someone gets a pastured pig, you clarified it right there. Pigs are omnivores. They need to have more. They're not a ruminant. They can't just eat your grass in your backyard and live off of that. One of the big selling points that I've seen with the grazing pigs, the Coonies, the pastured pigs, is that they can get more from the pasture, meaning more feed, and they are easier on it. So on the feeding side of things, Kirsten, you already said they need a little bit of grain. What do you do to make sure your pigs are getting the right nutrition and growing at the right rate?
I work with a nutritionist. So most of these feed mills that you can get feed from have a nutritionist on, if not on staff, that they can call. Through my job, we have a nutritionist through work, so I call them. This pig generally eats about half the grain of a commercial pig, and the rest they're getting from the pasture. But when they're young and growing, I found they need maybe a little bit more grain to grass ratio until that gut develops that it can digest that roughage efficiently. So my younger feeder pigs get probably a little more grain than that half that people talk about. And then since these pigs eat about half the grain, I double the minerals. That way they're getting enough minerals through their feed that they're not going to go look for it in the dirt.
And that kind of leads us right into the question of how they are on pastures. Everyone's one of the big selling points of these pigs is they won't root, they won't tear up your pastures. But what you're saying is that is conditional. What will lead a Idaho pastured pig or a cooney, what would lead them to start digging and rooting really hard in your pasture?
The number one reason has been minerals. If I can tell a little story here of my first pigs.
Yeah.
Again, I am thinking, hey, this doesn't root this. Yeah, okay, whatever. I bought these 3 animals off of Craigslist. I bring them home. The sow literally within a week had a litter because she was bred. She literally ate the 2B stones in the barnyard. She was that deficient on milk. It took, so that first winter, because I got them in October, she had her litter. They're on my little, I think it was about 6/10 of an acre that we initially fenced in. I turn them loose on this and they rototill it. They tore it one end to the other, and I am like, yeah, these don't root. You got to be kidding me. So I talked to the primary breeder, and she's like, throw the minerals at them. They're still deficient. So I did. I upped their minerals, and I literally would just throw a handful of mineral in a pan just to see what they would do. And they fought over it. So I upped the minerals, and it took them, because the grass wasn't growing, so now they don't really have a grass to chew on or to satiate themselves. It took all winter to cure them of this habit. The other thing I had done was, this was kind of a reclaimed area of the farm, and I used road cuttings to fill in holes and valleys, and I had pulled ornamental trees out, and well, road cuttings contain an awful lot of road salt, rock salt, and they just dug craters. So I had a mess, and I'm like, this isn't right. Like, okay, pigs root. That's it. These Idaho pasture pigs. Come spring, I leveled it all off. I reseeded that pasture. I divided the pasture up into 4 pastures. I put them on another area, and you would not know that pasture now was ever rooted up. They have not done it again. Once I got the minerals straightened out, got into a good growing season, I still have the one sow yet. The other, well, one became bacon because, you got one to have bacon.
You have to actually get some bacon. Otherwise, there's no point in having the pigs, right? I mean, somewhere.
Right. So yeah, they haven't, she hasn't done it since. They will dig to China for a dandelion root. I have found they're very effective at getting rid of thistles.
Wow.
They will take the shreds. At least the Canadian thistle, which is what I have. I've been trying for 20 years to get rid of a patch of thistle on my farm. And, you spray it with Roundup or 2,4-D, and 2 months later, they're back stronger than they were before. I turn them into the fields with the thistles. That's the first thing they head for.
Now, you did mention also little bit about the sows with their breeding, making prepping for that. How much are you involved when it comes to the breeding? How are the Idaho pastured pigs? Are they a more hands-off breed? Are they naturally good mothers? What have you found with breeding these pigs?
Oh, they're excellent mothers. They are excellent mothers. I know pigs can have a tendency to lay on piglets, and it can still happen with the Idaho pasture pig. I have not, knock on wood, I have not had that happen yet.
Wow.
I've had a sow go to lay down and heard a piglet squeal, and she just jump up and just wait till everybody clears, and she lays down again. Now, yeah, you get enough piglets, it can happen. But they are excellent mothers.
Do you suggest someone who is looking to buy these pigs go to Craigslist and find the first IPP on Craigslist? Go to a registered seller of the IPPs? What's the way you suggest someone get their first IPP?
Well, as a registered seller, I want you to come to me, of course.
No kidding.
But honestly, if you are getting your first IPPs, I would go to someone that's running a registered herd. They sell feeder pigs that you're getting. It doesn't have to be a registered pig, but you're getting it from a registered breeder, that you're getting an actual Idaho pasture pig. There's kind of been some issues when these things started getting popular, that people are saying, hey, I've got Idaho pasture pigs, and they're not. So, and of course, then they rude, or they're just not what they're not as advertised, and then that gives our IPPs a bad name. So I would just suggest you get one from a registered breeder. Especially if you want to go into breeding yourself, you want to buy registered. It only costs $10 for us to register an animal. So the rest of the money is in the breeding quality. And then you have a piece of paper that gives you the bloodlines. So then when you're looking for a mate for that animal, you are able to compare bloodlines. Because the last thing you want to do is, you buy one from Joe Schmo down the road and one from Joe Schmo up the road and find out they're the same pigs.
We actually, for those very reasons, when we were looking for our IPP, we decided specifically to go with a registered one for exactly that. Now, something we got to talk about if we're talking about pigs is actually the meat side of things. What do you find as far as time goes? How long does it take to get one to market? And what kind of yield, and what have you found with the actual pork in the freezer?
You can finish these on grain if you want to. It'll be a fattier pig, and you better have the butcher ready to butcher it by the time it's 6 months of age. But it still can be done. Like, you can still, like, you have a pig in the wintertime and you don't have any grass and you don't have fodder. You might have some hay, but who wants to haul water all winter long?
Oh, that's the truth.
That they can be done in 6 months. It'll be a fattier pig, but you still have a pig in the freezer, and you made use of your stock. Because I like to get 2 litters a year, so there's going to be winter pigs. And for me, I finish mostly winter pigs because I can sell all the ones in the spring. So I, for my own use, have only ever really done winter pigs. I think they taste just fine. The ones that are grazed, then, which get half the feed, take about 9 months, depending on how much feed they're actually getting and your pasture quality. Pasture quality is huge. If you don't have good pasture, it's going to be slower. They like a mix. I have clovers in my pasture and different grasses. They really appreciate the clover. So depending on your pasture quality will also affect growth rate. So figure 9 months to a year, depending on what you're doing with them. I do find I like the meat better with the ones that I raise, because I did butcher once that one sow, but was a gilt, and that meat was richer. It definitely had a richer flavor, a little denser um, conditioning to it. It was a little different, but both of them, I've had zero complaints from anybody that I've sold winter pigs to on meat quality. So I'm kind of anxious to actually do some of my own feeder pigs on pasture through the summer if I could actually keep some long enough. But I keep selling. One of the best things that I like about this pig, and it could be with all heritage pigs, but in my experience is I can throw a pork chop on the grill and make it like a T-bone steak. I get them thick cut like a T-bone, and I grill them like a T-bone, and it tastes as good as any T-bone I've ever eaten.
We got a picture up. My kids found a picture of a steak on the grill, and oh man, my mouth is watering just looking at it. It looks delicious. Ooh. And that is something I think I raised commercial Yorkshire land raised cross pigs for about 5 or 6 years. I did those pigs and I loved them. I really enjoyed those pigs. And I have always been a fan of those pigs and told other people, if you're doing it, don't have any worries about doing those pigs. They like being outside, they like being on grass. And I did not believe that the pork from a heritage breed pig tasted any better. I've heard about Berkshire pork. I raised Tamworths. I raised Hampshires. And for a long time, I just didn't believe it because I tried different things. And I said, no, if you feed the ones that I raised, if you feed them good and you let them have a good diet, they'll be really good. They're just as good was what I would say. And that is true. If you give them a good diet, they really do make a really better quality pork than what you would get at the supermarket from a commercially raised one, in my opinion. But this last February, we went to a event. We had a couple butchers who were doing a butcher video for us, and that's coming out soon. Once all these quarantines lift, I'm going to release that video because they do events, and you can go and see one of these events. But they served us Berkshire pork. They sent me home with Berkshire pork chops. And Kay cooked up those pork chops, and I have to admit, they tasted better than the pig I'd been raising for years. And so now we haven't been able to try our Kuni or our IPP yet. That's off in the future. But I am now a believer that breed can play a part in your table quality. My mind has been changed there. And I'm excited to see. We have a couple different, right now, Kunis who a couple of them are going to wind up as a pig roast pig pretty soon. So I'll be able to make my first call on that as far as the Kunis go. The IPP is a little bit further off because we have a breeder and we're going to go long term on that one. But hopefully it's as good as yours is, Kirsten. When someone is purchasing, one last question for you as far as purchasing goes, and then I do have a couple questions from the audience. Get your questions in now because we're going to be going to questions in a moment. I often talk about on this channel, when you're purchasing livestock, not only looking at the breed, but also looking at the line as far as purchasing animals and making sure they're a good fit for your homestead. Obviously, the IPP breed is one that's been bred for being out on pasture, being a good homestead pig. Everything you've described sounds like something a homesteader would want. They're tough on pasture. They're good parents. They develop a really good product, and it doesn't take forever to do so. Should someone look specifically at the management practices of the farm they're purchasing from, or is it pretty much safe to say any IPP, as long as it's registered, confirmed IPP, is going to be a good fit?
Oh, that sounds like a loaded question. If you're looking at buying a pig, an Idaho pasture pig from a breeder, you want someone that's going to talk to you, that's going to answer your questions, that's going to give you some service after the sale, because this is, for a lot of people, something that they have never experienced, and they may run into some rooting issues or some other issues that, is going to kind of like, well, this isn't what I was told. So buy from someone that you can call and say, hey, my pig's doing this, my pig's doing that. Make use of the Idaho Pasture Pig Facebook page. That is a great group of people. You can throw any question on there. You can search it. They are a wealth of information. All these breeders on this page are terrific. I did not learn all this. I am not sitting here in front of you because by some osmosis, I know all this. Yes, I have a degree and I have an education and I work in agriculture, but really I asked a ton of questions. I made great contacts with people on the page. I asked my questions. I listened when people asked their questions, and then I call a vet I would know to get these questions answered and put them back on the page for all of us. We're a great community. That is the one thing I really think makes this breed addicting for all of us. We're a good community of breeders that support each other. Okay, so the Idaho Pasture Pig Facebook page is a great resource. There's also a website which you'll find on the Facebook page, which has a link to all the registered breeders in the United States. There is also a map on the Facebook page which shows where every registered breeder is in the United States. So you find your house and find who's near you. So don't be afraid to reach out to people, talk to people, use Penn State, use Extension, use our Facebook page. Ask a ton of questions because everybody seems to just really want people to succeed with this breed, and we're willing to help.
We will add a link for sure in the description of this video so you can find that specific Facebook page. We're following it and we've been enjoying that. One more question, Kirsten. If people want to follow Mouse Creek Farm and what you're up to, where can they find all that you're doing there?
Well, right now I don't have a website because I'm IT illiterate. So if I could find somebody to build me a webpage, that'd be great.
There you go.
Taking volunteers. But I have a Facebook Creek Farm, which I'm very active on. I usually post all kinds of pictures and what's up and coming and what's going on the farm and things that I'm doing. So that's probably the best place right now to follow me is on the Mouse Creek Farm Facebook page.
We'll add a link to that as well in the description. And maybe we can work out. I could build you a website, trade for some IPP breeders. What do you think?
Oh, maybe we can.
Every week on Tuesday nights, we record these live from the barn episodes, and we do them live with the Homesteady Pioneers. They join us, and at the end of the episode, they are able to ask questions of our guest. This week, we had a couple fantastic questions. One of the questions was about raising IPPs in the woods, and we also discussed raising them in orchards and around young fruit trees. Would they be hard on younger trees that someone has planted? Should they be kept away from a younger tree? Do they, scratch or uproot trees? The younger ones.
I planted fruit trees.
You can join us live for these interviews and ask questions of our guests who are experts in their field. Become a Homesteady Pioneer by clicking the link in the description for this episode of this podcast. And you can join us live Tuesday night, 5 p.m. Eastern time is usually when we do these. If you don't join us live, you still get access to the entire full-length versions of these episodes. This one here was about 40 minutes of a podcast, but the entire full-length, unedited version the Pioneers get access to is well over an hour. It's about an hour 20 where we went in depth talking about all kinds of additional things about pigs. And every one of our episodes, there's an extended version in the Pioneer Library. You can watch the videos or you can listen to the podcasts. So if you love these and you want more each week, become a Homesteady Pioneer. Click a link in the description for the episode of this podcast to do so. We thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that deep dive into pigs. We are really enjoying our pastured pigs. And I know if you're thinking about pigs, you will enjoy them too. So consider it. Until next time, remember, the road is rocky. Make home steady.